Hello, everyone. Welcome back to English Vision, the podcast. I'm Sophia, and today we are going to talk about something very important, something that affects all of us every single day success and failure, and more importantly, how to speak naturally in English about these topics, using real phrases you can use in your daily conversations. English isn't just about grammar or vocabulary, it's about expressing your thoughts naturally, sharing your feelings, your experiences, and connecting with people. And today I'll guide you step by step with phrases that sound real and fluent, not just textbook English. Let's start with a question. Have you ever felt really happy about something you achieved, but then you also felt nervous or scared about failing next time? It's normal. Everyone goes through this. And talking about it in English can be tricky if you don't know the right phrases. Here's a simple way to start a conversation about success. You can say, I'm really proud of myself for achieving this goal, or I finally did it and it feels amazing. These are phrases that sound natural and confident. Notice how I said finally did it. This is something native speakers often say when they are happy about achieving something after hard work. Now, what about failure? Because let's be honest, failure is just as important as success. It teaches us lessons, it makes us stronger, and it's okay to talk about it in English too. You can start with something simple like, I didn't do as well as I hoped, or I made a mistake, but I learned a lot from it. These are phrases that are polite, honest, and very real. Remember, in English conversations, it's normal to admit mistakes and talk about them openly. People respect honesty. Here's a tip. When you talk about success, try using words like proud, achieved, finally, accomplished, or thrilled. And when you talk about failure, use words like learned, mistake, challenge, struggle, or opportunity. This way, your English sounds real, emotional, and human, not just like memorized sentences from a book. Let's practice together. I'll say a sentence and you can repeat after me. Ready? I'm so proud of finishing this project on time. Great. Now try this. I made a mistake in my presentation, but it taught me something valuable. Fantastic. Now, let's imagine a real life situation. You just finished a big exam or a work project, and you want to talk about it with your friend in English. You can start by saying, I'm so relieved it's over, or I worked really hard for this and I'm happy with the results. See how natural that sounds? You're sharing your feeling and using phrases that native speakers actually say. Sometimes people feel nervous to talk about failure, but sharing it in a positive way makes your English sound confident and real. For example, you can say, I failed at first, but I kept trying, or it didn't go as planned, but I learned so much. Notice the words kept trying and learned. These are phrases that show persistence and growth, which are very important in conversations about success and failure. Here's a story to help you remember. Last year, I tried to learn a new skill. At first, I struggled a lot. I even thought about giving up, but then I said to myself, I will try again tomorrow. And slowly, day by day, I improved. Finally, I succeeded, and I could proudly say, I did it. This is a great example of how you can talk about both failure and success naturally. Now, let's focus on some everyday phrases you can use. When talking about success, you can say things like, Rumber seal? I nailed it. I couldn't have done it without help. It feels amazing to finally achieve this. And when talking about failure, try these. Rumber seal? I slipped up, but I'll do better next time. That didn't work out, but it's okay. I faced a challenge and I learned a lot. See the difference? Using these phrases makes your English sound natural, conversational, and emotional, rather than just correct but boring. Here's another tip. Try to connect your sentences with small words like but, so, and because. This makes your English flow smoothly. For example, instead of saying I failed, I learned something, you can say I failed, but I learned something valuable. See how much smoother that sounds? Let's practice a short conversation. Imagine your friend asks, how did your presentation go? You can reply, it went well, but I made a few mistakes. I learned a lot though. Or if it went perfectly, you can say, it went great. I worked hard and it paid off. Now, let's talk about something very interesting. Won't break how we can use stories from our life to speak naturally in English because people love stories and stories make your English sound real. Let me share a short story with you. A few months ago, I decided to join a public speaking event. I was really nervous. I kept thinking, what if I mess up? But I told myself, it's okay to make mistakes. I will do my best. On the day of the event, I started speaking, and yes, I made a small mistake in the middle. But instead of panicking, I smiled and said, oops, let's try that again. Everyone laughed. It was friendly and relaxed, and then I finished my speech confidently. After that, I could say, I did it. I overcame my fear. See how I used real phrases like, what if I mess up? I will do my best, and I overcame my fear. These are exactly the kind of phrases you can use in daily conversations. Whether you talk about work, school, or personal experiences, here's a tip for fluency. When you speak about success and failure, add your feelings. Words like excited, nervous, proud, relieved, frustrated, and happy make your sentences sound natural and human. For example, instead of saying, I passed the exam, you can say, I was so relieved when I passed the exam, or I felt proud of myself for finishing the project on time. Let's practice together. Repeat after me slowly. I felt nervous at first, but I kept trying and finally succeeded. Great. Another one. I made a mistake, but I learned something important from it. Fantastic. Now let's see how we can ask questions about success and failure in daily conversations. Because conversation is a two-way street. You can ask, have you ever faced a challenge and overcome it? What's the biggest mistake you've learned from? What achievement are you most proud of? And when someone answers, use encouraging phrases like, Rue, that's amazing. Notice how these words make your conversation feel warm and natural. Instead of just saying good job, you are adding emotion and personality to your English. Here's another short story. Last week, my friend tried cooking a new recipe. It didn't turn out perfectly. He said, I think I messed up this time. I replied, that's okay. Everyone makes mistakes. You'll get better next time. Then he tried again, and the second time it was delicious. He said, I did it. Finally, it worked. See how we can use everyday life examples to talk about success and failure? Using small stories makes your English engaging and easy to understand. People remember stories much better than plain sentences. Another tip, when speaking, use simple connectors like but, so, then, because, and finally to make your sentences flow. For example, instead of saying I failed, I tried again, I succeeded. You can say I failed at first, but I tried again, and finally I succeeded. Now let's explore how to talk about small successes and failures in everyday life. Because not all achievements are big, and not all mistakes are serious. But talking about them in English will make your conversation sound more real and fluent. For example, you can say, I managed to wake up early today, and it feels great. I forgot my keys this morning, but it wasn't a big problem. I cooked dinner for the first time, and it turned out okay. See how small successes and failures can be shared naturally, using phrases like managed to, first time, it wasn't a big problem, makes your English sound friendly and relatable. Here's another story. Last week, I tried learning a new English idiom. At first, I couldn't remember it. I said to myself, I'll try again tomorrow. The next day, I remembered it. And I could proudly say, I finally got it. This is an important tip. When talking about failure, always include what you learned or how you tried again. It makes your English sound positive and confident. People will admire your attitude, and you'll sound like a fluent speaker. Now, let's look at some real phrases to describe feelings after success or failure. When something goes well, you can say, it's such a relief. And when things don't go as planned, I was disappointed, but I learned a lot. It didn't go as I expected, but I'll keep trying. I was frustrated at first, but I stayed calm. Notice how these phrases express emotion naturally. Using emotional words is a key part of speaking like a native English speaker. It's not enough to just say, I failed or I succeeded. Adding emotion makes your story alive and interesting. Let's practice a short dialogue. Imagine you meet your friend after a big exam. Friend, how was your exam? You, it was tough, but I did my best. I'm relieved it's over. Friend, I'm proud of you. Did you enjoy studying? You, yes, I learned a lot, even if it was challenging. See how smooth and natural this conversation sounds? Using phrases like, I did my best, I'm relieved, even if it was challenging, makes your English sound authentic and confident. Here's another tip. When telling stories, add time phrases like last week, yesterday, recently, or finally. This gives context, and your English flows more naturally. For example, last week I tried a new recipe and it didn't go perfectly. Yesterday I finally finished my project and it felt amazing. Now, let's practice some everyday phrases that combine success and failure. Rep 3. I didn't get it right the first time, but I kept practicing. I was nervous at first, but everything worked out. I struggled with this task, but in the end, I succeeded. These are key phrases for natural conversation. They show honesty, persistence, and confidence, and they are exactly how native speakers talk in daily life. Now, let's explore some idioms and expressions about success and failure. These will make your English sound even more native and natural. Idioms are fun and they help you express ideas in a conversational way. Here are some common idioms for success. Tron Wold Röde Korwai. When something goes extremely well, for example, I hit the jackpot with my presentation today, everyone loved it. Come up trumps. When you succeed unexpectedly, for example, I was nervous about the exam, but I came up trumps. On cloud nine. To describe being extremely happy, for example, I was on cloud nine when I finally finished my project. And some idioms for failure or challenges. Miss the mark when something doesn't succeed. For example, I tried to make the recipe, but I missed the mark. Back to square one. When you have to start over. For example, I failed my first attempt, so it was back to square one. Learn the hard way when you understand something after making mistakes. For example, I learned the hard way that I shouldn't leave homework until the last minute. See how idioms add color and emotion to your English? Using them naturally in conversations makes you sound fluent and confident. Now let's do a story example with idioms. Last month, I decided to organize a small event for friends. At first, I made a few mistakes with the planning. I thought, oh no, back to square one. But I kept trying, I asked for help, and in the end, everything went perfectly. I could proudly say, I came up trumps, everyone enjoyed it, and I was on cloud nine that day. This story shows how you can combine idioms, emotional words, and storytelling to sound natural. Let's practice some real conversation lines using idioms. Friend, how was your presentation? You, I was nervous at first, but I came up trumps. Everyone liked it. Friend, did everything go smoothly? You not at first. I missed the mark on the first slide, but I fixed it quickly. See how this conversation sounds real and confident. You're not just saying facts, you're expressing emotions and personality. Now let's talk about connecting success and failure naturally in conversation. Often, you need to tell a story that has both positive and negative parts. This shows honesty and makes your English sound more fluent and natural. Here's an example. I tried cooking a new dish yesterday. At first, I missed the mark, but I kept trying, and finally, it turned out great. I was nervous about giving a speech. I stumbled a few times, but in the end, I came up trumps and everyone clapped. Notice the structure? You start with the challenge, then explain your effort, and end with the success. This pattern sounds very natural in English conversations. Here's another tip for fluency. When you speak, pause naturally after commas and full stops, just like I'm doing now. This makes your English easier to understand and more expressive. You can also use hand gestures or facial expressions if you're speaking in person or on video. It makes your story more engaging and memorable. Now let's add some encouraging phrases you can use when talking to others about success or failure. Don't worry, you'll get it next time. Keep trying. I know you can do it. Everyone makes mistakes, it's part of learning. I'm proud of how hard you tried. Using these phrases makes your conversations friendly, supportive, and very natural. People love when you show empathy, and it's also a great way to practice new vocabulary and phrases in daily English. Now, before we finish today's episode, let's recap what we learned about success and failure. We talked about how to express success naturally using phrases like, I did it, I'm proud of myself, and I came up trumps. We also explored how to talk about failure positively using phrases like, I learned a lot, I'll try again, and back to square one. We also explored how to talk about failure positively using phrases like, I learned a lot, I'll try again, and back to square one. We shared stories from real life, like trying a new recipe, giving a speech, or completing a project, and we practiced connecting challenges and achievements in a natural way so your English sounds fluent, confident, and real. Remember, when speaking about success and failure, always add your feelings. Words like proud, happy, relieved, frustrated, or excited make your sentences more human. Using idioms and real phrases also makes your conversation sound native. Here's a final tip before we go. Practice speaking about your daily successes and failures, even small things like waking up early, finishing a task, or learning a new word. Say sentences like, I'm proud I finished my homework on time. I made a mistake in my project, but I learned something new. I was nervous at first, but everything worked out. The more you practice, the more natural and confident your English will sound. Remember, fluency comes from speaking regularly, learning real phrases, and not being afraid of mistakes. So keep a little journal or talk to a friend in English every day. Share your small wins and even your failures. You'll notice your English improving week by week. Thank you so much for joining me today on English Vision, the podcast. I hope you enjoyed these tips, stories, and real phrases, and I hope you feel ready to talk about success and failure naturally in English. If you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell so you never miss a new episode, and share this podcast with friends who want to improve their English fluency. Next time, we'll explore more real phrases for daily conversation, and I'll share tips to speak English confidently in any situation. So stay tuned and keep practicing every day. I'm Sophia. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you in the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe, and let's continue improving our English together.